Welcome to Pause for the Truth, where you can sit back, relax, and hear an honest dialogue about health, wealth, legal, and social issues. The hosts are Dr. Rogers Kane, family practice physician, and Jocelyn Turner, health education consultant, with co hosts from the Northeast Florida Medical Society and its foundation. Stay tuned for the truth about matters affecting you and your family. We're here to tell you what's really going on and why. Good evening and welcome to 2023. Oh my goodness, Dr. Kane, these 2000s are just flying, just going by so fast. But Happy New Year to you as well as our guests. How are you doing this evening, Dr. Kane?
I'm doing just well, just fine. I can remember when I was 23. No less, we're in 2023. I feel like I'm 123, but life is still good.
But don't you remember when in say 1980 or 1990, the 2000s seemed to be just gazillion years away, right? And now we're knee deep in it.
Remember what the future was? George Orwell, 1980, and then Prince talking about he's going to party like it's 1999.
Yeah.
So now we looking to 2099.
Well, we have a great show as we begin the new year. You know, a lot of us make resolutions and thinking about what are some things we'd like to accomplish for the new year. And the one topic that seems to be the most popular is talking about finances. People just don't seem to be where they want to be with finances. Now, Dr. Kane, with that Mega Millions jackpot being at $785 million, that might be where people want to be get rich. And I'm not telling you, but yes, I have my tickets, my numbers. Now I drew out of the sky what numbers I might choose, and I also need to go and get the Powerball because it's over 281 million. But I digress. We have a couple of folks with us tonight who are smarter at approaches to money than Mega Millions and Powerball.
Rather than crossing your fingers, right? Hoping to get right.
That's right.
But listen, maybe they can share with me when I win what to do with all of that money, right?
Well, won't you share with me your money?
So tonight we're talking about getting financially fit in 2023. And we've had in the past Mariko Walker, financial advisor, to share his expertise. I met Mariko a few years ago. I think we bumped into each other at an event or a restaurant or something, and were able to, he was able to share his expertise. We met a couple of times. Now, I would be rich had I followed his advice as well as our other guest advice. But let me just go ahead and say hello, Mariko. How are you doing this evening?
I am doing awesome. I am looking forward to having a conversation. So I'm doing well.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we also have on the show Cheryl Owens. Cheryl happens to be another person who has shared with me some practical financial advice, and I would have been rich also had I paid attention to the things she said. Now, I've taken her nuggets, little nugget here and there, and have done some of the things, but I surely would be better off than where I am today. But I'm thankful. How are you doing this evening, Cheryl?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm doing very well too.
And Cheryl has so many, as well as Mariko. They have so much knowledge in the areas that they work with. So I'm going to let you'll gather from tonight's discussion what their areas of expertise is that they will share with you. And always remember, if you have any comments for our guests throughout the show, you can either type your question in or you can dial 888-669-1280. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the discussion. So when we talk about getting financially fit, what does financially fit mean, Mariko? What does that mean to you? And what should our guests, our audience think about when they talk about being financially fit?
Thank you for the question. When I think about, what is financial fitness, I think about somebody feeling good and confident about their financial situation. It's like exercise. Like this morning, I was generally every morning, at least 5 times a week, I will run in the morning. And this morning I ran 3 miles. It was interesting. In my process of running the 3 mile this morning, I felt pretty good and confident about that process. But I remember in the very beginning of running, I was running with my son. My son plays football, and I remember running around the neighborhood, and there was a gentleman who started laughing at me because my son was beating me. So he was just laughing. I said, you know what? You're laughing right now, but you're not going to be laughing later, right? So it's really about what you say to yourself, that confidence you have. I just knew that if I did the right activity, the habit of running, I would get better. I feel confident and I can go longer distance. And it was interesting as I was running this morning. One of the good friend that stays in my neighborhood, he was like, Mariko, like how far are you running now? I said, sometimes I run 3 miles, sometimes I run 5, sometimes I run 10 miles. He said, man, Mariko, you're ready for the river run, that type of thing. I said, am I? I said, well, how long is it? He said, 9 miles. I said, I didn't realize that it was like that. So I felt confident when he said it. It wasn't like, oh man, I can't do that. So my process of financial fitness is getting somebody to feel good and confident in their financial situation.
That was an excellent way to say that. And you did a masterful way of helping people who might not understand the approach the same way. Because again, when we talk about the things we want to accomplish for the year, we'll talk about our fitness, as far as our physical body is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And we also talk about, so I like, and thank you for making that analogy, because that is an excellent way to think of it. Cheryl, how about you? What do you think about when you think of financial fitness?
So very similar to, and thank you also for the questions and for me being a part of this opportunity tonight. But very much like Mariko is saying, when I think about financial fitness, I just think about really how I allow my money to work, run, walk for me. And it can start with something, as Mariko talked about. He started grander than I with the 3 miles, but I may have to start with just walking around the block. And financial fitness can start as simple as that for me.
Yeah, and that's good. Dr. Kane, you're muted, but you're right. And when we talk about that, taking those baby steps, like you don't have to leap. When we talk about getting financially fit or fit with anything, you do take steps. And the thing I think that people, they get overwhelmed. They start out too much, too fast, and then they get burnt out. That's why, if you write down one thing, so for example, I know you all have seen it, that chart that people have, if you put $1, whatever, this is week 1, so I'm going to put in $1 a week. By the end of the week, every week, depending upon the week that it is, if you put that amount of money, well, it's good when it's $1 and $2 and $3, but then when it gets up to $48 for 48th week and 49th week, however, but when people see at the end of the year, like, oh my goodness, if only I had saved, I could really save this amount of money. But technically, if they add it up, whatever that, and the chart will say at the end of the year how much you have. So rather than doing the weekly amount that they say, just spread it out over the year. So, Cheryl, one thing that you and I have gotten involved in is, that I think the pandemic taught all of us is the importance of having multiple streams of income. So let's talk about that. A lot of people were laid off. They, just didn't know, how they're going to make it, how they're going to make ends meet. So why are multiple streams of income important to you?
So for me, it definitely allows for more than one way to gain what we need to gain as far as our money is concerned, our household, our budget, our finances, and what we need to do with it. So when you have more than one way, more than one opportunity to get income, it helps for me when I share this information with people that come to me often and say, I'm struggling. I don't know what I need to do here. And I say a couple of things you need to do. You need to either reduce your expense or get more income. And so with those multiple streams, so if you're here that you work your regular 9 to 5, but you have some type of skill set, you're creative in some way. I know for me, I am very technology short on the short stick. So people that are good with that, I will pay somebody to help me come in and do that. That could be another stream of income for someone to help to do, whether it's gas money, pay for a cell phone or anything like that. So definitely having more than one option to earn is a benefit for me.
Well, one of the things, since you brought that up, Ms. Owens and Ms. Turner, I think I mentioned, Jocelyn, you and I have had this conversation way back when, and some of my relatives. We talk about the employment for the future, where jobs are not necessarily going to be the income for an individual. It's going to be what service can they perform, or abilities do they have to that they can get paid for as an income, the service. Because, companies are only going to hire so many people. And we've talked many times on the show before that a lot of them not going to necessarily require a college degree. And then everybody with a college degree can't necessarily get a job. So you have to start looking at what kind of service you can provide, especially while you still have a job for those that have a job. As Ms. Oren is saying, you need to be able to be somewhat diverse in terms of your income stream and plan on it, especially the younger folks. Now, older folks like me, I'm going to ask this question. A lot of us, this is not me describing me per se, but a lot of us have not done our needed investment by the time we get to 65, may still have sources of income and may still need to, they still need some financial planning if they never had some before. So, Mariko, you can answer my question. Are there different gradations in which you start looking at people and what kind of income they need to get to be financially fit, healthy, so and so and so? The 20-year-old versus the 60-year-old. 60, 40, 20. I use that some 20, 40, 60 is what I use sometimes.
For me, as I think about that question, Dr. Kane, I think about, a person first got to identify what is their financial independence number. Because in order to retire or in order to transition out of working at a job, we have to identify what would you need per month. Let's say, for instance, someone is in their 30s and they're trying to identify, well, I got 30 years from now. Well, what is the income you want at that point? Well, it's a little bit easier because you got more time to get to that point and start investing. The sooner the better, because time is your greatest asset. However, the challenge comes is when you get to the point where you are 55, 60, or 62, and you really haven't saved. The average person, when they get to age 60, have somewhere between 152,000 saved to 195,000 saved in their retirement account. So if a person only have 152,000 saved or 195,000 saved, and their plans is to have a long life, 20 years, 25 years, well, they can't necessarily just retire because that money is not going to last as long. So we're trying to figure out, first, where's your guaranteed income going to come from? Is that going to come from Social Security? Do you have some form of pension? What is that source going to come from? If there's no guaranteed income, well, we got to figure out, okay, how much income can you produce from that 152,000? Well, the safe rule of thumb is you want to calculate what's called a safe withdrawal, which is 3 to 4% of that balance. That 3 to 4% of what that balance is what you want to not take out more than if you want that money to last. Outside of that, we got to figure out, hey, is that enough? And generally, it's not. And that's when you got to pause for the truth or face the truth that you may have to work longer than you want to, all because of there was a time you waited, you enjoyed life, and there was nothing wrong with that. But the problem comes is when you're a retired person want to retire, but the income is not there.
So you're saying to me that the first thing to do is an assessment of where you are. You don't know where to go if you don't know where you are.
That's the first place.
Where you start, what's your starting point? So that's what you're, in a nutshell, you're saying to me on that.
Mm-hmm.
Cheryl, you look like you want to say something.
Yes, I want to interject. I think I want to go a little bit further back. I think one of the things that we need to make sure that we're starting with is even with our children, helping them to understand how money works. We all just came out of the holidays, and I'm sure that it's been a lot of money spent at Christmas. I visited my youngest son and wife and their children. They have twins, and my husband and I was trying to ask before we went, what should we get the kids for Christmas? I called my son, what do they need for Christmas? What do they need? My son said to me, Mama, these kids don't need another thing. However, when I got to, they live in Kentucky. When I got to Kentucky and I entered their home, and they have a beautiful home there, I looked at the items that they had and I was like, oh my goodness. So what I shared with them is that even at their age, what they're trying to start with them, they get all of these gifts from aunt, uncles, cousins, and everyone, and don't understand really sometimes the value. So if we start even at elementary, middle, high school, and start talking about how money even works, what the value comes, so that when we're talking about retirement, my background, I'm a real estate professional. I sell and work with, I tell people I help them achieve a dream that many people often have, but they don't always know the path to be able to get there. And so some people, they'll call me and say, do I need $20,000 to purchase this home or something like that to get into? And so I say to them, as Mariko, I think, is trying to say, let's measure and start with where you are, so that once you get out of high school, because many of our high school students now are working. And I ask the parents sometimes when they come into my office, what are they doing with their money? Oh, I don't know. They spending it on technology and clothes and shoes. And I was like, that's good, but I would rather them invest in Nike. So when they wear Nike, they own what they're wearing, and just kind of share that information, because even the couple that I talked to today, they were in there just trying to find a place to rent, and rent is ridiculous right now. It is out the roof. And so when they ask me about, they want to find a house, a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house for $700. I said, that don't exist anymore.
That's a doghouse.
But their income, when I looked at that, I said, share with me about your income. And so when you're talking about Social Security, disability, and maybe a little part-time job because they can't make over a certain amount, we're very limited. If we just learn how to live within the means of what we have first, because inflation is eating away at a lot of things, and Mariko could talk about that even more, that just getting the knowledge about how money works, how we earn it, how we spend it, how we invest it.
And I would like, if you don't mind, I would like to add something to what she just said. It's interesting, and I don't think a lot of people know about. Every single year, 3 times a year, I do a 9-week class, and it's free, and we cover everything from financial literacy related. Could be how to manage your debt, how to budget, understanding credit, understanding how you build wealth, understanding taxes, understanding estate planning, understanding life insurance, understanding long-term care or annuities, three times a year for 9 weeks. We do a virtual option and an in-person option every Monday. That is so important, because if somebody know how money works, they make smarter decisions with their money, and they're able to grow more wealth and transfer more wealth. So definitely concur with that.
The
One
other
of the
thing that
things
I
that I
want to
do,
say is don't feel bad about where you are. I think a lot of times other people don't ask for help because they feel like they've made so many bad decisions and didn't
Embarrassment
understand.
and shame. Yeah.
Yes. So don't feel, I tell them when you come in, I'm not here to judge you. I am here to help you to move from where you are to where you want to be, as far as owning a home or even learning how to budget. I'm sorry, Jocelyn, so go ahead.
no, what I was going to say is for our listeners who are just tuning in, if you have a question about getting financially fit in 2023, you can dial in to 888-669-1280, or if you're feeling shy and don't want to talk to us, you can just type in your question. But I was reminded as our guests were talking, Cheryl Owens is a broker, realtor, and all those other acronyms, letters behind her name. And Mariko Walker is a financial advisor, which just shared about his 9-week course. Years ago, I was a little sister, a big sister with big brothers and big sisters. And I did something that I thought was innovative at the time. I don't know how I thought about it. And probably because my little asked me how I had just purchased a home. And she asked me, you bought this home by yourself? How did you do that? Right. So I had a Monopoly game. I pulled out the Monopoly game, and how you give out the money and you have the little houses and hotels. So I talked to her how you had to save so much money in order to buy a house, a hotel. And I as simple as that was with that Monopoly money and that game, I tried to bridge the gap of real life by purchasing a home and purchasing the home on that Monopoly game. Do you think that something as simple as that is useful when you talk about starting early with talking about money? And what are some other ways that we can start having those conversations about money at different stages of a person's life from childhood?
Is
Either
that
of you
question for?
chime in.
I'll let
So,
Mariko start.
so when I think about that question right there, it's very smart to do that. As I think about investing, I think about two different types of investing. I think about active investing, and I also think about passive investing. Active investment, when you are taking the proactive measure of investing, doing the research, and then buying. And could be a business, could be real estate, but you are trying to grow it into an income. It's an asset that grows in value. And then you have other type of investing where you're investing into the market, or you're investing in something where you have a money manager or a low cost, fund that is growing, like an index. So that's more on the passive side. So you just got to determine, where you are in life first, kind of assess like your income. That's like the budget. And we got to see what is going on when it comes to, someone's debt. Because they're trying to look at, your debt to income ratio, if you're trying to get a house or not, or even you're trying to invest, they're looking at your credit. So will it require that? Or are you going to save your way and invest in one of those? So either one a person choose is really important, because are you going to be the person that's going to actually go out and invest in a real estate property? It could be your own personal one, pay it off, and you turn it into a rental, or you're going to take your money and invest into a rental. And then on the income of that, you go and purchase your personal house. So I don't think it's a wrong way you can go about doing it. I just think about what is the end goal you're trying to accomplish.
So when you talk about budget, I remember when Cheryl and I used to have this conversation. I used to, and I'm going to be transparent, which I always do in talking about myself. I would say budget. I don't have a budget. Budget sounds like you have a lot of money. So when, just in practical terms, are you talking about, I look at how much money I bring in. I look at how much money that I my living expenses are.
Mhm.
Now, not my shopping expenses, because I'm a shopaholic. You mean how much it is for me to maintain my household, right? When we talk about a budget. And then I remember Cheryl used to say, okay, so how much money do you, when you eat lunch, you know, those to be honest with you, it's just not something I've ever wanted to do, or even always, you know, because I've always been so what word am I looking? Challenged. I'll use the challenge, like Cheryl is challenged talking about technology, challenged with the whole process of money management. So for people who feel like they're already behind, and now you're asking me behind as in they're not making ends meet, how would you suggest that they get started?
For me, it's all about first identifying where your money is going. I have to know where it's going first. You know, um, a lot of time, and it's not all the time, but a lot of time when I'm sitting down with someone and helping them with their finances, in my mind, it's like you have the money. It's just what are the priorities of the money, right? So I got to identify where's it going. And the second thing I got to identify is what is your habits? Because that's all the budget is going to do is just tell me what are your spending patterns. Like, is more of your money going towards eating out? Is more of your money going towards traveling? Is more of your money going towards subscription? Is your money going more towards credit cards? I have to identify where is it going first, and then I have to identify, okay, this is where we are, right? We got to identify, okay, what system are we going to use? Because in order for me to get the dream to be accomplished, you have to finance that dream. Just like going to get a car, you got to finance to get the car. Well, your savings finance your dreams. So is it going to be either do we earn more income? It's really basic. Do we earn more income, or do we adjust the spending temporarily? I can tell you this, and probably all of us can agree on this. When we first went out to get our own home, we was pretty motivated to make some changes, right? They said in order to get this mortgage, you have to have a lower debt debt ratio, income debt ratio, in order to do it. Well, the dream was motivating, it was compelling to make the change. So I don't know what the compelling dream is, but I have to figure that out, because that's the shift in earning more or adjusting.
So it doesn't. What you're saying is that there's no universal one-stop shop answer to Jocelyn's question in terms of making, trying to start on where to, how to get financially fit. It's individualized, right?
It is, because let me just give you my background, my story. 2008, I was working as an automotive technician, and we had a recession. At that time, I wasn't financially literate, right? At that time, I had 3 months saved. My wife was a stay-at-home mom, 2 kids, and I got let go from working as an automotive technician. That 3 month went down to $355. Can you imagine a wife, stay at home, 2 kids, mortgage, expenses? I'm on my knee praying, God, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lead not to your own understanding, all your ways, acknowledge Him, He'll direct your path. I'm praying, right? So I assessed where I was, and I recognized even in the midst of I'm not getting ahead, what can I do? Well, I remember going on the porch and declaring, Mariko, I never want to be in this situation again. I don't like how this feels. So a decision has to be made of, do I want to stay here? Then I became a student, like Miss Owen said. I became a student of reading books on how money works. I started reading books on business or real estate to learn. And what so happened was, even in the midst of me just getting unemployment, $1,100 a month, and then finding an $8 an hour job, I said, you know what? What can I do? Because saving and getting ahead is about developing a habit. That's all it is. So I wasn't making that much money. So I started taking the little money I was making, and I got some quarters, $25 a quarters, and I put it in the piggy bank every time I got paid. It wasn't a lot, but that habit led to me better off. And I came across mentors that was willing to teach me how to be in business, how to increase my income, how to be in things like real estate. So you have to start somewhere, but the decision part of it, for me, I think was an important part. And everybody's situation is different, but I can't say that somebody cannot change. Do you like how it feels to be in a situation?
And we had a question that was posted from someone, and it talked about, being at age 60, where do we begin with the guaranteed income? What does that mean, the guaranteed income?
So guaranteed income is, well, right now, if you're 60, well, have you ever went into SSA.gov, scrolled down and clicked on My Social Security and created an account to see what your Social Security income would be? That's the first income. And whatever number you see that they give you, 62, 65, 67, I want you to reduce that number by 22%. Okay? Because if they're not properly funding Social Security, either tax is going to have to go up or they lower someone's Social Security income. So I would prefer to plan on a lower number, to reduce by 22%, as figuring out that guaranteed income number. Second is where you work at right now. Do they offer a pension? That's a guaranteed income. Majority of the time, they are not getting a pension. If they're 60, there's a chance they was grandfathered into a pension that had went away. But they still, when they get to 62, they'll get a guaranteed income. And there are times when that's not the case. So that's a guaranteed income. Then we got to look at, okay, what have you saved up until this point? You're 60. Do you got a 401k? Do you have a account from a previous job that's just sitting there? Do you have a IRA, individual retirement account, so that we can create a guaranteed income? So I'm trying to figure out first what guaranteed income that once you do it, you turn it on, it will come in every single month for the rest of your life.
I have a question that I'm going to pose to both of you. It's going to be the same question, but in the individual fields. So I'll start with me, you Miss Owen. How do I determine when I need a real estate agent?
So you can determine that from high school. You need a real estate agent when you're interested in buying a property. It could be a single family, multifamily, commercial property that you want to purchase for personal or investment purposes. You would want to have a real estate professional to walk you through that process. There have been people that have purchased real estate, in particular in today's time. Sometimes you have people that are out there doing wholesaling and different things like that, that they go and go directly send out letters and are able to purchase property that way. However, I still suggest and recommend that you have. Now, what is the difference? There are different degrees and levels of real estate professionals. And you want to be careful who you're communicating with or trusting such a large, because purchasing real estate is, if not the largest, one of the largest purchases that anybody would make, in particular in today's time. I used to say buying a car, $30,000 now, but your average 3-bedroom, 2-bath home right now is probably averaging anywhere between $280,000 and $350,000. So you would want to get a real estate professional to help to walk you through that process, to navigate that. And the second part of that, you say, does everybody have to own a home? No, there are some people that, like Mariko is talking, that right now may not be a good candidate for home ownership, because we don't want them to get to foreclosure sooner than they got to home ownership. So it's just about educating yourself on that process. Do I think that everybody should and could? I do, because I say, why pay? You're paying a mortgage, even when you're paying rent. You're just paying my mortgage as an investor. But you have to just think about that way.
Well, I guess I ask that question simply because you see so much of that do-it-yourself online, and some people go for it. I'm not going to say fall for it, but go for it, and they wind up not really being in a great position at the end of the day. So that's the reason I asked that question.
Yeah, you want to be careful. I don't mean to cut you off, but you want to be careful. I just had a customer to call me and say that they were scammed out of some money today because they went online. Somebody said that they own this property, and one, either they could sell it, or two, that they can rent it to them. And the average community doesn't know how to research to find out whether or not how and who owns that property. So you definitely want to get someone that's licensed. We are held to a higher standard as real estate professionals. We spend a lot. We invest, and it costs us a lot of money to keep our licenses active and things like that. So we're not going to just do some fly-by-night stuff.
Well, that's one of the reasons I asked, because I know that many people out there have been scamming people about real estate, blah, blah, blah. But Mr. Walker, the other question, I'm going to ask a similar question for you. And that is, how do I determine, is this a two-part question. And the second part, another part, I'm going to bounce back to you, Ms. Owens. But Mariko, how do I determine, one, when I need a financial advisor, and two, how do I pick a financial advisor, regardless of what profession you may be in, whether you're a physician, whether you're, a steel worker, whatever it may be?
So that is a really good question. I think even like going back to what Ms. Warren has said, like if a person is at a teenager age, or they should have been meeting or been in the environment where they're seeing their parents talk to someone, and they are seeing the importance of doing that. So when they get to an 18 or 21, they see a principle applied that created some level of success in their family life. So I would think that the sooner the better. Once somebody start earning some form of income, they will need somebody that they can go to for financial advice. And that's a good question. How do you choose? And that could be a person have, let's say the first person they should go to is somebody that they are around. And they say, well, do you have one? And how have that person been for you? What has been the result of that person helping you? That is the easiest way. First is the association you're around first, and if somebody don't have a person around, then I could help. or they could, do a Google search and then, do and ask some questions on, what license do the person hold? Are this person captive or independent? Is this person a fiduciary? Like these are some of the questions you're asking because that helps you to know. And also another place that you can go is a place called FINRA.org, because now you can go online and do the research on the person you choose.
What's
Or
what's that website again? I'm sorry.
FINRA, FINRA.org. FINRA regulates all financial advisors, and you can see, okay, what is the background of that person? Do they have any things on their report? Because anything that takes place with that advisor, it has to be reported on that site. It could be bankruptcy, it could be client complaints, it could be anything related to doing a client wrong. So that is your due diligence on figuring out, okay, well, let me see. And you just go sit down. You would know, your intuition would know, but at least that's a good start of trying to figure out someone.
So you're saying personal referral, and then validate them with those, even those personal referrals or Yellow Pages. I mean, that's outdated, but Yellow Pages referral, and validate them on FINRA.
FINRA. That's right.
So, Ms. Owens, a quick question from you. I'm asking the same question I did ask. When do you determine you need a real estate agent? And the second part would have been, how do you go about choosing one? How do you determine which real estate agent to use?
Yeah, so to answer that, it really most times, like Mariko just said, is by referral. Most of the times, you want to connect with people that you already know have shown some level of success in whatever it is. If it's purchasing a home, to find out who they used. And for that second part, I say still interview them. Because one of the things that I say, that people refer people to me all the time, and I'll say to them, I said, no, I need us to have a conversation, because I may not be the best fit for you. You definitely may not be the best fit for me. And so we want to develop some rapport and relationship. But most time, as it relates to real estate professionals, it's by family, friends, a banking professional that you may know, insurance people and things like that. In our industry, we have insurance agents, banking people, home inspectors, contractors, and all of these kind of people that we get referrals from. And mostly, I've been in the industry now right at about 36 years. And most times, most of my business have been where my sons, my husband, my siblings, or someone have referred, my friends. I say sometimes, just trying to be transparent, Jocelyn and I are friends. And so a lot of times she will call me up and say, hey, Cheryl, I heard this person need help with this. Can you help them? And then we have that conversation. So that's what I would first start with in selecting, and then have a conversation with that person. So one of the things I also say is give the new person a chance to learn as well. I had a customer to call me one day and say, Cheryl, I need you to help with my niece, because this agent she's working with, she's young, she don't know nothing. I was like, well, I had to start somewhere too and learn. So give us a chance. But if you find that person is not giving you the information, they're not communicating back to you and things like that, that's how you want to know whether or not that's the right professional for you. And we're licensed. So you can go, just like Mariko say, you can go to the state. You can see where our licensings are and what agencies and things like that we work with to try and select. Now, from real estate side, I also say, whether you're a mom and pop or a big name brand company, it really still is about the service that the individual provides. So I say I'm not as big as the Watson sign is out there, but you can't beat me sharing and teaching you what you need to know.
So one of the things,
Rico says the same thing. Ms. Turner,
yeah, one of the things I wanted to mention before we end the show, and one Dr. Kane and I talked about that this is probably going to need to be a part 2 show because there's so much to talk about when it comes to finances. I'm going to ask the question, but I'm going to give Mariko a chance to answer the questions that were posted by some of our viewers. They want to know more about the classes. How do they access your classes? And we want to give both of you an opportunity to share at the end your how to contact you for the future. But I want to talk about, before we transition to that, let's talk about, Mariko, you mentioned estate planning. Cheryl and I, Ms. Owens and I have had conversations with friends about making sure that your finances, your business is in order before you transition. And so, Mariko, if you would talk a little bit about financial estate planning and what that means. And you don't have to own a mansion or be a millionaire to necessarily have or plan your estate.
And that is the myth. The myth is I have to be rich or I have to be wealthy in order to have an estate. If you have a child, you have an estate. Your child is considered like property. And if you pass away, your husband and wife pass away, or single mom, single dad pass away, well, you would think that your child will go to the person you said they will go to. The challenge is that because it's not in writing in a last will and testament, who the guardian would be of that child, you've given up the right to decide who that child will go to. It's like having a car. And I want you to use this picture, a car that don't have no wheels, a car that windows are down and it's raining. That's a situation when a person don't have no estate plan. They have the key. They know where they want the car to go to, but they don't have the wheels and they can't roll the windows up. So when you have at least a last will and testament, you're given the keys to your family. But because the car don't have wheels on it, it has to go through probate. In order for you want your estate to avoid probate, you have to make sure that you do something like a trust, where you give your family the keys. The asset is the car, and the car can move because you did a trust. So from a basic level, a person needs to have at least a last will and testament. Regardless if it goes through probate or not, you should have in writing who's the guardian will be of your kids, who would get your estate, like your house. If you have a vehicle, you have an estate. If you have things in your house and you want to prevent arguing of, family being torn apart because of money, you would do something and put it in writing, like an estate plan. So you don't necessarily have to be wealthy, but it is necessary if you have a life insurance policy or a IRA or 401k. You can name a trust as the beneficiary of that versus naming it to a child. So you don't necessarily have to be wealthy, but if you have a life insurance policy, you have a retirement plan, or you have a house, or you have kids, you need an estate.
Well, Mariko, I think the thing that, I'm sorry, Dr. K, I just have to say this. The thing that's been confusing for me is if I have an insurance policy and I have my beneficiary's name, if I have a 401k and I have my beneficiary's name, you're saying we still need to get a trust and a last will and testament.
Okay, let me add this to what you just said. There are two different assets. You got probatable assets and you have non-probatable assets. Your life insurance policy, as long as you have a beneficiary on it, it don't go through probate. If you have a 401k or individual retirement account, it don't go through probate as long as there's a beneficiary on it. The challenge comes is when the husband and wife pass away together. And now the kids is left with an estate because they wanted their kids to have something. So
Like a home, you mean?
it could be a home. It could be money from the life insurance policy. It could be the money from the IRA or 401k. Well, they want their kids to get it if they're younger than 18. So how do you properly structure that? You're doing something like a revocable living trust for that. So it's just important, yes and no. It could be you name somebody older than 18 as the contingent beneficiary, and you got a primary beneficiary on that policy. It's just that when you want to name a minor something, it's very important that you do some form of an estate plan, like a trust, to avoid another person getting the money, but people having access to the money.
Let me give you scenarios I see a lot of times in my office. It's multiple, but I'm just going to give you one or two. One is the parent, elderly, got several kids, but they put one of them in particular in charge of their finances to help them pay their monthly bill. You know, particularly in today's technology, they need someone to help them get through paying those bills. Remember, they paid their bill, yada, yada, yada. But that was the person that they gave the power of attorney to help them move that along. You may also see a situation where I've seen a situation where the person is the one that's doing the whole caregiver aspect of it, but they still got 6, 7 siblings. The parent may list one of the siblings as being not her sibling, one of her youngsters, in that 6 or 7 siblings pot, may list them as being the ones to, if I die, I want this person to do this, that, and the other. But they have every intent of sharing with the rest of the siblings. But that person then could also die before the parent does. Then the parent never does change his or her will, whatever it may be, if they made one in the first place. So about at the end of the day, you wind up having 6, 7 kids, or 4, 5 kids, even when it's 2 or 3 kids, fighting over mom's jewelry, mom's house, mom's car, this, that, and the other, despite all the information that mom told each one of them what she liked to do. When she didn't do it, it leaves a total mess, okay, in terms of the estate, not to mention going through the court and all the monies and stuff it may take away from you or the estate in terms of attorneys and so on and so on and so on. And lands that are very prime land. You know, it could be hitting the Hilton Head if that was the case. But very good land. But the parent, because they didn't take care of what they needed to, it leaves such a mess, taxes being paid, who gets what, this, that, and the other. So, I mean, I see it every day, you know, fighting amongst the kids. And I'm sure that's not what mom wanted or dad wanted, is to have their kids fight as to who gets what. You know, that's the last thing you want to see. At least I'm alive now. That's the last thing I want to see is my kids battling for my little crumbs, you know, and disrupting their family as what we want family to be. But I digress. Cheryl, did you have anything to add to that?
No, what we've said, like you said, it is just the tip of the iceberg when we're talking about financial literacy and just wealth building and legacy and all of these kind of things that we're talking about. What I would like to leave with is knowing that this is a ongoing, we're going to always be learning in the financial space. Mariko and I'm a part of an organization that we come together to bring all of these different entities, whether they're attorneys, financial advisors, financial planners, bankers, and all of that. We have an event once a year with one of the, it's called NARAB, National Association of Real Estate Brokers, is the national organization, but we have a local chapter called the First Coast Association of Realtors, that we have 1 week out of the year that we do what we call Realtors Week. And we bring all of these components, these different entities within our financial space together to try and learn and to glean from information, and to just know that, like we said, it's no way that we can get what we need in the amount of time that you all provide right now, but be willing to reach out, whether it's to myself. I think I put in the chat, you can reach me. My company is ProSource Realty. I'm located in downtown Jacksonville. My telephone number you can reach me is at 904-757-6417 is my office number. And I'm just a resource. So sometimes you may call me about financial planning and I'll direct you to Mariko or some of my other professionals, or you may call me about insurance, or right now the insurance industry is really impacting our community with canceling policies right now. They don't know what to do. So we try and be a resource in that way is what I want to end with.
Yeah, it happened to me, Cheryl, just last week. I got a notice that my insurance company, homeowner insurance company, was dropping me. They're leaving Florida pretty much. So we're at the end of the show, and Cheryl already gave a jump on it, but we'd like to give our guests an opportunity to share their final thoughts. And I will still give you, Cheryl, an opportunity to share any other final thought that you may have. Great discussion tonight. You know, I learned a lot. I know our viewers did. You know, they're busily posting in the comments like, hey, I want to take those classes. I want this. I want more information on this or that. So thank you to our viewers for listening. But for both of you, please share your final thoughts on tonight's discussion of how to get financially fit in 2023. And
ladies first.
I'm sorry.
Ladies first, always.
Oh, yeah.
So to be financial in the real estate space, I say if you can pay rent, you can pay a mortgage, you can own a home. It's about trying to find the proper place and be realistic about what you can afford. Come to us, come to my office, call. It's a lot of real estate agents out there that you can reach out to get more information about. But home ownership is a vehicle that you can use to start building wealth with.
Thank you. Mariko, what are your final thoughts for tonight's topic?
Final thought is, if like today, like Ms. Orr said, it's just a little information of a lot. And the best way is to find a place where you can get knowledge about it. If someone had interest in coming to one of my classes, all they would need to do is go to my website, marikowalker.com. You will scroll down and you will see under mission, you'll see schedule an appointment. When you go to the appointment site, there's going to be a tab for virtual masterclass or in-person masterclass. The in-person masterclass is at Hopewell Church off of Loretta Road. The virtual one is via Zoom. And there are people who tune in from all across the United States, and they just, we just do it as a small group. So they can definitely, if somebody have an interest in someone sitting down and helping them with their finances, I would love to be that person that helps you along. Do some goal setting, help you become financially fit. My information is there. My phone number, 904-236-3053. And also like to see my website, marikowalker.com. So I'm looking forward to connecting and, coming to one of the classes.
Thank you, Cheryl and Mariko. Dr. Kane, what are your final thoughts for tonight's show?
Well, we have our listeners are from various parts of the state and, various parts of the country. And so we have a diversity in terms of who our listeners are. I think the main thing I wanted them to get across is that there are resources out there to help you better plan your financial wealth. Whether it be Mariko, whether it be Ms. Owens, you know, as it relates to real estate, whether it be whomever it may be, there are additional people that Ms. Turner, you know, I know, both our guests know that may be able to help someone. And in these days, particularly since you are, you know, we have the internet available to allow us to do distant counseling and stuff. The bottom line of what I wanted to bring to people this evening on Pause for the Truth is that, what we wanted to bring people this evening on Pause for the Truth is that let's look and see where your financial health is at, your financial level of financial well-being, whatever your age may be. 1, 2. Once you've decided where it may be at, and if you feel that you need additional help, which most of us do, need additional help in terms of achieving the goal that you like to get to, not where you're at, but where you want to be at. Let's just, you know, do the first thing they do when they start talking about trying to relocate yourself. You got to take that very first step. Move the left foot first or the right foot first. Whatever it is, make a step toward what you need to do. And Pause for the Truth, we this evening, it's so much more to uncover, and we've had attorneys on the show in the past because this is not the first one that we've done. But we will be doing part 2 and discussing part 3 right about that, and discussing some other things as it relates to your financial health, because your health is your wealth. Your wealth can also be your health. Okay. And so they come together, and that's why on a medical show, we are talking about wealth.
Thank you, Dr. Kane. And again, thank you, Cheryl Owens and Mariko Walker. Tonight's discussion was very overwhelming. I've been getting text messages while you were talking. So if you saw me looking to the side, I was not being unattentive, but people felt that it was a lot of good information and it was overwhelming. In the past, we had an estate attorney on, as a matter of fact, with the last time Mariko was on, because of the discussion with him, obviously, is how to get that last will and testament and trust and all of that. And Dr. Kane and I already talked about bringing him back on, and obviously with a lot of the topics that were discussed tonight with Cheryl and Mariko, we can see the value of even adding or bringing the two of them back on, because Cheryl didn't talk about the other part of what she does, and that is being an investor. Maybe you own a home already, but you want to buy some property like folks are doing, buying up properties in Jacksonville. They don't even live in this country. So how do we regain control of our properties and our communities, which they're targeting communities of color, by the way, if we don't know that. Don't give up grandma's home that she worked so hard for. Keep that home in your family, that investment in your family.
We have a show plan for that, Ms. Turner. Make sure you let them know. We do have a show plan for that.
And you know, really, thank you, Dr. Kane, really talking about, there's so many parts of it. I like how Mariko started the discussion, the discussion tonight, you know, giving the analogy of fitness. When we decide we want to lose weight, we approach fitness in so many different ways. We think about, you know, we go out and buy a pair of sneakers, we buy our gym shorts, whatever the case may be. Maybe we invest in a gym plan. Either way, we think about what our approach is going to be. That's how we have to do with our fitness. We've got to start, as both of our guests talked about tonight, we've got to start with knowing where we are now and think about where we want to go. Some people are doing vision boards. Maybe that's your thing. You know, I did it with my family, had a bunch of magazines. You know, what do you see in your future? Whatever the case may be, the bottom line is to think about it, talk about it within your family, utilize professionals like Mariko and Cheryl. If you want to purchase a home, Mariko, if you want to really get your finances in order. As always, thank you for tuning in to Pause for the Truth. If you heard the show tonight and you think it is valuable, check us on tomorrow or a couple of days. Tyrone, our behind the scenes guy, will clean it up and take away my ums and ahs and any glitches that we may have, and make the show available. It'll be available on YouTube. So stay tuned for future shows. This show, look for it on youtube.com, and stay tuned for future shows as we do what we like to do, and that is educate the public about issues of importance to themselves and their families. And I always have to end. If you have not gotten your COVID vaccine or booster, please make sure that you do so, because if you spent time with any groups of people during the holidays, you were either exposed to COVID, RSV, or influenza. Make sure there is no vaccine for RSV, but make sure you get your flu shot as well as get your COVID vaccines and or boosters. Thank you again. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.